इसमें इन योर थ्रू आउट योर इन्वेस्टिंग जर्नी आपकी बेस्ट एंड वर्स्ट स्टॉक पिक कौन सी रही होगी एंड आपने कितना रिटर्न कमाया होगा या खोया होगा ऑन दो स्टॉक?
So worst stock picks तो were in the 2090, 2099, 2000. Worst, yani it was that it wasn't that the companies were worst, but the prices at which I bought, because इतना excitement था, it were all storied stocks. कि ये सब stocks will become, multibaggers, internet will destroy everything. Like what we feel today about कि AI will destroy everything. All the conventional businesses will have to change into internet businesses and all of that. वो था इसके लिए ऐसे था कि जो internet infrastructure businesses थे, Lucent or Cisco, those were the businesses that I also bought at that point. Right? And when you leverage, those came down by 50, 60, 70, 80%, many of those. Right? So you end up losing everything. So I think those decisions that I took at that time were the worst decisions, because कुछ भी knowledge नहीं था. It was just that everyone were excited. ये story सुनाई गई थी उस time कि ये अगले 10 साल में, 15 साल में, 20 साल में इंटरनेट का कैसे एक्सपांशन होने वाला है, मार्केट साइज क्या होगा, उसके बेसिस पे इन्वेस्टमेंट्स किए गए थे. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ दीज स्टॉक्स आर टुडे nowhere. I mean, they haven't ever reached the 2000 levels that they reached. So the investment returns from these stocks, which were the most exciting stocks at that time, is negative. So I felt that these were the worst, investments that I had made. And good thing was, it was at the start of the journey. So वो जो tuition भरनी पड़ी, of losing money, that in the end, and now looking back, was well worth it. If you don't learn, if my initial journey was really fruitful, I would have spent many years without knowing that I was making a mistake. Because until you suffer that big loss, you don't go in depth. आप एक बार बड़ी mistakes करोगे, next time you will think 10 times before doing a blind investment. So it's better that you suffer these losses at the start of your journey, so that you become much more careful, and your next journey is much better, rather than like spending 10 years building a lot of wealth without really learning much, and then one really big bad cycle comes in and you lose a lot of that money. So वो अच्छा हुआ था.
And what would be your best pick so far, and how much return would you have made in the best stock?
Yeah, so see, best investment, I would say, for me at the initial time, and this was even before SageOne started, जहाँ पे मैं खुद के लिए इन्वेस्टमेंट करता था, और फिर इनफॉर्मली मैं जो एक दो हम मेरे इन्वेस्टर प्रमोटर फ्रेंड्स बन गए थे उनके लिए एडवाइस करता था. सो my first two big investment successes were Bajaj Finance and Kaveri Seeds at that time. So Bajaj Finance, because I was in Pune, तो उनकी ट्रांजिशन जर्नी देखने को मिली थी. राइट, बजाज फाइनेंस इन 2007, वो जो बड़ा साइकिल था उस टाइम, इट वाज ओनली डूइंग ऑटो फाइनेंस एंड पर्सनल फाइनेंस. राइट, सो इट वाज अ वेरी unsecured, poor quality kind of lending business. It was when Rajiv Jain came in, and then we could see the transformation that was happening in that company. That gave you the conviction that now from that insecured lending, they were changing into 7-8 multiple verticals, from consumer finance to mortgage, and now you can see it's across the board. You go to hospital, or you go to even some tuition class, you will get Bajaj Finance kind of funding. So that transition was happening then. I mean, it wasn't so so that we could invest in 2010, 9-10, around that time. So that, I think, was like the really big first multibagger. And of course, I didn't end up holding it for until now, but I still ended up holding it for 7-8 years. And during that time, it went up by more than 50x. The other investment that I made was Kaveri Seed. Kaveri Seed was it was connecting with me because I'm from farming background, and it was basically making cotton seeds. Right, so understanding that business was a little easier, and also you thought it, at least you could see what value addition it was doing for farmers. So, that was my second investment, which really, really worked. The second and third investment that I made was farming related. So, one was Kaveri Seeds, another one was PI Industries. PI Industries were making pesticides during that time, right? And pesticide, see, domestic farming is a very slow growth business. So, इसलिए इतना interest नहीं था to invest. But by the time I had at least clarity on what kind of investment parameters that I need to look at. And the big factor that I was always looking for is market share gain. कि जो भी कंपनी में जाना है, are they going to gain market share? Right? So, PI industry में क्या था कि one is they were making pesticides, but they had started to do contract manufacturing of the molecules for the pharma pesticide for global players, right? And that was done mostly in China at that time. So these guys were sort of slowly gaining market share from them. So I thought compared to the agriculture growth, itki growth बहुत ज़्यादा होगी because of this completely new business which no one else was doing in India. And so that really worked out. Kaveri Seed में वही था कि उस टाइम जो compared to the regular cotton seeds, they were getting into the GM wale cotton seeds, and that was a transition for the farmers. Instead of using their own seeds, they were buying from, and Kaveri was one of the top players then. So I thought like it's a new market, emerging market, and ye business should really gain market share from the conventional cotton seeds, and it was a huge market and really it played out. So those initial successes jo the, they were all based on sort of newer businesses. Like Bajaj Finance में भी some newer businesses थे, PI में भी था, Kaveri Seed में भी था, emerging businesses, and those were the initial successes at that time. But I would say my biggest success in the SageOne journey has been APL Apollo. APL Apollo I've been able to hold on for a very long period of time. एंड वो जर्नी भी इतनी आसान नहीं थी. आई एंटर्ड इनटू एपीएल अपोलो इन मे बी 2015-16 के अराउंड. 2016 में उस टाइम जो भाव था 900 रुपया. नाउ फॉर दिस वाज एट दैट टाइम. उसके बाद में स्प्लिट्स और ये सब एडजस्टमेंट्स हुए हैं. सो द प्राइस वाज 900 in 2016, and 2017 was a bull market. So from 900 it became like 2400. Okay, and 2400 हुआ by April 2018 के आसपास. उसके बाद में मैंने I sold half of the quantity. So फिर भी basically my cost was taken care of. And from 2018 to 2020 COVID low तक the price never reached that level. In COVID the price had dropped to 1100. So barely above my starting price, right? So from 2016 to 2020, other than whatever profit I booked, it was a struggle. Company was delivering, price hadn't moved anywhere. The big jump happened post-COVID. Post-COVID के बाद, यानी in India I've seen so many businesses completely transform, because क्या हुआ था कि lot of these businesses, sort of were considered to be commodity businesses. कि स्टील का बिजनेस करते, फैब्रिकेशन पाइप्स बनाते हैं. बट उस टाइम द स्केयर वाज सो मच कोविड में कि कंपनीज गॉट टू एक्सपेरिमेंट की हम लोग, बिकॉज उस टाइम कैश कलेक्शन वाज सो इम्पोर्टेंट कि अगर लोगों को पता नहीं था अभी लोग कैश देंगे नहीं देंगे, सो इफ यू कीप ऑन सेंडिंग प्रोडक्ट्स तो फिर यू विल रन आउट ऑफ कैश, राइट? बिकॉज इतना बड़ा वो स्केयर था. सो दे सेड कि अंटिल वो पहले का जो भी बाकी है पैसा, आप जब तक हम लोग हमें देंगे नहीं, वी विल नॉट सेंड अ सिंगल पाइप. एंड कोविड पीक्ड, सपोज कोविड तो चालू हुआ February March 2020. In the June and September quarter, APL Apollo collected 500 crores of cash. It was a game-changing event, and similarly, a lot of other companies did. कि collect cash first, then send. Credit पे हम लोग कुछ नहीं देंगे. And that was the event which changed the small and mid cap industry, I think, in the last 5 years. Where जो credit terms थे, working capital जो cycle थी, shrink हो चुकी थी. अभी when I look at pre-COVID, APL Apollo का working capital cycle used to be 30-35 days. अभी you saw it 0 days. Because cash में collect करते हैं, right? So funding 35 days of capital when you are selling, these, क्या होता है कि steel pipes, suppose you are selling at 60 rupees a kilo, इनका margin will be barely 4 rupees and 4.5 rupees per kilo. But 60 rupees आपको fund करना पड़ता है, for those 35 days as working capital. You can see the change in, cash requirement जो आपको चाहिए. And that's what happened कि ये जो cash collection किया, they use all of that to pay off all the debt. So many small and mid cap companies become debt free. अभी यानी the debt level today in a small and mid cap is the lowest ever in India's history. If you take the top 1,000 companies, the median debt to equity ratio is almost 0 today. That means more than half the companies are, so that was a game changing event, because of which return on capital shot up, because your capital requirement went down, right? APL Apollo today, they are projecting that their return on capital will be 35% and 40%, right? And that's when the stock, went through a hockey stick kind of a jump. Post COVID, uske baad mein it went up 20x. So you waited for so long, and then the stock in the next 2-3 years went up 20x. That is, where you make money, where over the period of time you keep on accumulating the stock at lower and lower prices, right? And you keep your conviction, you hold on to that conviction, and then you get rewarded. But you can only have that conviction if you understand that business in depth. अगर आपको वो इंडस्ट्री और कंपनी समझती नहीं थी, you would lose patience कि छोड़ दो, ये 2 साल में कुछ नहीं किया है, 3 साल में कुछ नहीं किया, अभी निकल जाते हैं, let's buy something else जो momentum में भाग रहा है. But that's never the place to make money. Momentum is a place where you can make average returns, and in an upcoming bull market maybe you'll make some money, but when it goes down you will also lose a lot of that money. But if you hold on to companies which have really delivered fundamentally, सिर्फ भाव नहीं भागा है, at a certain point it's like a spring, it keeps on compressing, certain point it just shoots up, and then that's when you make money. So that's where that has been the biggest in terms of the absolute amount that you made, because by that time our AUM had also gone up quite a lot, or the holding period was very long, and large money compounded at that kind of multiple. And so that is, I would say, the biggest sort of success so far.
Very, very interesting. Let's delve a little deeper into all these case studies. Kaveri Seeds पे कितना x return था?
Kaveri, I think 14-15x.
Got it.
का return था.
Got it. And so Bajaj Finance, you said 50x, APL Apollo 20x after COVID.
After COVID, yeah. In the long run, it's done much better than, but that 2-3 year का return itself was
okay.
20x.
Okay, and long run कितना होगा?
Long run, I would say, अभी तो probably 23-24x होगा overall.
Wow. If you learned something new from this video, do share it with your friends and subscribe to this channel so that we can bring you the best content possible. Also, if you want to watch this entire episode, click on the link in the description box and you can go to Kushal Lodha YouTube channel and watch the entire podcast episode. Thank you so much for watching this and have an amazing day.